Hi all, welcome to this latest edition of Off the Ball. This would have been up on Monday, but I'd been out all day and pretty much just kind of got caught up in a few things. So apologies for this being a couple of days later than usual, but regardless, plenty to kind of get our teeth into across the board. The biggest thing, obviously, to start off the bat is the biggest complaint I'm seeing in football just now is to do with officiating, whether it be in Britain, Europe and so forth. It's been a lot of punditry, discussion, and it certainly makes for interesting debate because the refs are maybe, do we need, and I've mentioned this a few times, do you maybe say to like rugby refs or other sports refs and just say, right, especially with say VR for example, like make them brush, like, if they know the rules of like say football, but they're say rugby refs or cricket refs or tennis refs, but you say to them, right, I'm not here to take your rubbish, your language is appalling, that tackle was shocking, naturally we'll say Anthony Taylor might have just gave a booking for it or waved it off, but this ref might decide, you know what, I'm going to send you off, and in my report I'm going to say that you should be banned for 10 games or something. It's that bad, and it might act as a way to nip tackles like them in the bud. You never know. But officiating just seems to be the biggest talking point at the moment. But however, from there, obviously delve into like football itself. So like results wise, the biggest one embarrassment wise of the week went to Dundee United, get hammered 7-0 to Alkmaar. They were 5-0 down at half time. Could easily been 10-15 goals. It was absolutely shocking. Dundee United equalled the record for like the worst individual result in a European tie for a Scottish team, which ties with Celtic and Hibs. But like for the European ties as a whole, last week, apart from like Rangers coming back for Union Saint-Gilloise, Real Madrid beating Frankfurt in the Super Cup, there wasn't really anything of, say, upset, maybe say nature. You could maybe say like Larnaca in the Europa League, but realistically last week there wasn't anything that screamed out major up. Well, there was like say a few upsets, I suppose. You had Sligo, Hamrun, St Patrick's nearly caused an upset, which would have been impressive. They were on the cusp of causing an upset, but yeah, nothing major in those kind of like European ties last week, and obviously with playoffs this week, it's going to be interesting to see who can hold out and get themselves into like the Champions League, the Europa League, and obviously the Europa Conference League. But in terms of like results in general, Sevilla starting the season off with a whimper, getting beat to Osasuna. So that kind of derails that potential thought of, can Sevilla challenge for this La Liga title. I think that maybe kind of early suspicions might say no. Obviously Italy, quite a few predictions going out around that. Inter digging deep against Lecce. AC Milan, an impressive result against Udinese. Atalanta doing the business. Like Juventus had to not necessarily like dig deep, but they looked, at least they'd done like what was expected of them. Lazio, Roma, like the Roma result was quite a, like, how would you put it, like Roma had to kind of really scrape through in the end. It was only a 1-0 victory, but as Jose would say, a win's a win. Like Napoli starting their season with a bang, Juventus running riot in the end. Like Sassuolo, I think it's going to find it tricky this season because people, like, because they've lost Scamacca, so they're having to rely on Defrel to bring them the goals. Raspadori obviously was on the bench, and like, if I'm honest, you want to be trying to play like your strongest team as best as possible. Like, but for what I get the impression with Sassuolo just now, there seems to be, because they obviously lost their cup game prior to the season, and it was a bit turbulent, as it were. But see how it develops, take it from there. Still 37 games to go. But from there, Atletico, they got a result. Real Madrid had to dig deep against Almeria. And also from there, Barcelona getting a 0-0 draw against Vallecano. Not very exciting there. Despite obviously finally getting all the registered players in. For me, I was happy Mallorca got a draw. Hibs obviously getting beat to Livingston late on. Result of the weekend, for what I've seen across all the leagues, you can even class it into Monday. Shandong, Taishen, Marouane Fellaini's team, they won 7-0 against Hebei. Obviously used to be known as like Hebei China Fortune, but it's just like Hebei now. 7-0, ran absolutely riot. Like, it is worth noting, a lot of these squads now are like so dramatically different these days. Like, there's not like the same like high calibers. Like, Oscar's no longer in the league, he's now back in Brazil. A lot of players nowadays that it's not really like the big names that they initially were trying to always bring. Like, yes, there's some decent players in some of the teams. Like in Changchun Yatai, you've got Akore, Junior Nagao, Eric. Like, there's like 3 decent players in their own right. Like, Akore's a half decent defender. He should be probably like at one of the better teams in the league, if honest. And Nagao's a goal scorer in like Japan and Korea and China, so he's proven to score goals, but at the same time, it's he's one of those that's just maybe not shown what he's truly capable of. Another good result of the weekend, Nottingham Forest obviously getting 3 points against West Ham. From there, it's like Ajax running right against Groningen, but as I said, the 7-0 for me stood out. Celtic and Hearts running right in their respective games, which at times I wasn't surprised about, but I think everyone was almost trying to outdo each other regardless of whatever league you were watching. If it was MLS, some of them were going for like 5-0, I think was the highest individual like result, like as in like goal difference. Like, there was a few like 4-1s and 5-2s and that, but I think that was just kind of the theme over the weekend, was like high scoring, who can outdo each other, and you sometimes then question the standards of some of the teams or the performances, and you do like really sit down and like kind of question it. You say to yourself, how can this team this week lose 6-0, but then last week they got a 1-0 victory against like top of the league? How can you suddenly swing it in such a way? It sometimes can be a bit baffling. Like Brentford, for example, winning 4-0, they absolutely outclassed Manchester United in every department. It was pretty embarrassing, really. If you were to take a like, people would probably pick that as like the true definitive result of the weekend, and like everyone's got to take blame for that. What I found funny was like Manchester Evening News at half time. I think it was half time and full time. They did say like match rates. I think the half times had them like all 0. And you say to yourself, really, 0? It's like, how on earth has that happened? But that's sometimes what you find. They just get put in like a 0 and they just put it from there. But like, I would say teams need to kind of have a right good look at themselves. like for me, even when you look at last night's results, for example, Charlton, I would never have had them hammering Plymouth 5-1, if I'm brutally honest. Like I think few people would have probably had of the mindset that Plymouth should be fighting to go up. Yes, it's an away day, but that's still no excuse. But regardless, Charlton won 5-1. Yes, they're currently 6th at the moment, but Plymouth, obviously, if they'd got the win, would have put them up to 2nd. It just kind of shows a lot of things like that at this stage of the season make all the difference. But I think what it comes down to with a few of these teams is like, where's the consistency in their form? It's like sometimes they'll play like Saturdays and they're rubbish. They come into a Tuesday or a Wednesday night game and they're suddenly like the best team in the league, and you say to yourself, why can't they show this consistent? It's like the team might finish 5th from bottom, but the only games they've won all season were the midweek games, but they've not won a single game on a weekend. That'd be an interesting to start that. Like find a team, say in either England, Scotland, wherever, when it's a midweek game, if the league plays a Saturday and then a Tuesday, Wednesday, what return have they got? Also, when you delve into, like, as I said, the playoff games for the Champions League, Bodo Glimt got a result against Dinamo Zagreb, Copenhagen 2-1 Trabzonspor, and Rangers PSV finished 2-2. Biggest discussion from the Rangers game was the 2 goals. Could Balogun, who was in the stands apparently watching the game, could he have been on that part and made a difference over, say, James Sands or anyone else at the back? But it's a discussion for another day. Obviously, for the playoff games tonight, Qarabag, Plzen, Dynamo Kiev, Benfica, Maccabi Haifa, and Red Star Belgrade or Crvena Zvezda. I am of the mindset it will be Plzen, Benfica, and then only because they've looked very impressive so far is Maccabi Haifa. I really feel they could get into Champions League. Obviously, Conference League, Deutschgarten and Apoel play. I feel Apoel should be strong enough to get that tie, but Apoel aren't of the form of many years ago when they had a run into like the knockout stages of the Champions League. That was a fun little journey. Obviously, playoff ties for the Europa League, Conference League in general for tomorrow. From Scottish eyes, all eyes will be on Zurich v Hearts. My feeling is, if Hearts are going to win it, they're going to win it in the home leg. Zurich, for me, domestically at the moment, haven't exactly shown form. They've been pretty woeful, and if Hearts can show Sunday's form, but the thing is, Hearts have shown defensive frailties and they also sit back. So it's like they showed it against Ross County, they scored goals, they sat back, Ross County kept punishing them. They can't afford to do that against a team like Zurich, and if like Ganotto's playing and depending on who else, like if they're up to full strength, then Zurich might fancy this, get the tie done in the home leg, so that when they come to Scotland in a week's time, that they don't feel remotely troubled by Hearts, whether it be the atmosphere or whatever. But it's definitely a winnable tie for Hearts. Yes, they had the possibility of Linfield, but Zurich, I still feel are beatable, despite obviously being the Swiss champions for last season. It's not a Basel, it's not a Young Boys, but it's still, or St Gallen even, it's still a team that I feel Hearts, in my personal opinion, can beat. It's whether they recognise right away that it's a big chance here. It helps the coefficient. We don't want to have like a Motherwell, Dundee United embarrassment all over again. We want to be saying, right, we want 3 teams in Europe till December. We're laughing, and we'd like to then hopefully have at least one team playing after Christmas. You'd like at least one playing after Christmas. It's mainly for the coefficient, because then it gives because you then want to be in a position where, say, Celtic and Rangers, or whoever the top 2 are in the Champions League automatically. You then like whoever's third to then be, say, in the Europa League automatically, and then potentially whoever wins the cup, or say maybe, I don't think it would necessarily be 4th, because they would still go through, like, say, a playoff tie, say, but I think it would be like a 4th, if whoever was to win the cup. I think 3rd could have, say, the group stage for, say, the Europa League. 4th might get the Conference League or the Europa League themselves. They usually get the Europa League, but sometimes can be like the playoff, or like whatever round. They're usually a round further than whoever's third. Like Hibs had that, and it was like whoever won the cup had like the advantage. St Johnstone were basically a round further than us, and it was like, okay, we've done the hard work all season. St Johnstone have won 2 cups yet there, but it is what it is. But to go over them in general, HGK Silkeborg, I'm going HGK just, but both are probably of a similar standing, so it's definitely a winnable tie for both to get into the group stage. Ferencvaros, Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock have looked very impressive in Europe. It isn't worth denying. Ferencvaros looked good domestically and in parts in Europe, but I'm still going to go Ferencvaros. Apollon Olympiacos is going to be an interesting tie, because it's a Cyprus-Greece battle, but I'm going Olympiacos. Sivaspor, it just picked Malmo. Sheriff to beat Punic Yerevan. I'm leaning towards Hearts. I feel Hearts might just do enough. Ludogorets to beat Zalgiris. Dnipro to beat Larnaca. Ghent to beat Omonia, which is Neil Lennon's team. And Fenerbahce to beat Austria Vienna to kind of wrap up those Europa League ties. Now, Conference League has a lot of ties in general, just because obviously how it plays out. But I'm going Slavia Prague to beat Rakov, Basel to beat Sofia, Nice to beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, Molde to beat Wolfsberger, Linfield to just pip RFS. It means Northern Ireland could have its first team, I think, in Europe, a proper group stage, which would be fair play to them. I don't know if Latvia would have the same scenario, so it could be history for both, but I'm almost sure it's neither had like a team in like the group stage like ever. Saying that, I think Riga's been in like rounds before, but I don't think like a group, like the group stages, I don't think we've seen a Latvian team. AIK just picked Slovako. Young Boys and Anderlecht, one of the big ties of the Conference League in general, so this could be, if you're like a fan of these kind of teams that you maybe normally see in the Champions League, for example, they're fighting out just to get in the third tier, as it were, of European competitions. But at the moment, I am probably leaning towards Young Boys just on form. I think might just pip it, but Anderlecht definitely going to give them a good push. It comes down to how that one goes out. Hapoel Beersheva to beat Craiova of Romania. Besiktas to pit Antwerp. Rapid Vienna to pit Vaduz, even though Vaduz have looked very impressive. And I think that could be a scenario as well where we could see our first Liechtenstein team, and it would be our only one, because Vaduz are the only team that ever are in like European competition. Slovan Bratislava to beat Zerzinski. Cluj to beat Maribor, Cologne to beat Ferroviar, Steaua Bucharest to beat Viking, Lech Poznan to beat Dudelange, despite their domestic form being pretty shocking. Villarreal Hajduk Split, it's kind of like second best team in Croatia v one of the best teams in Spain, and Villarreal should pip that, win that. West Ham Viborg, certainly an interesting one. Viborg looked very impressive, but I feel West Ham are a step up. AZ Alkmaar, Gil Vicente, I would say Alkmaar should breeze that, especially if they show last week's form. Fiorentina should beat 20. Partizan should beat Hamrun, but Hamrun looked very impressive last week. If you and Malta could have their first team potentially in the group stage. And then Spooky, Balkani, I'm going with Spooky for that one, but that's another one where it's both teams are relatively small. Could have our first Kosovoan team in European competition. And that's kind of the point of the Conference League, is to have these smaller countries get a team in Europe, get actually a bit of a coefficient. But yes, they'll still be miles away from like the big teams and the big nations, but it just makes them a bit more competitive. It just gives them something to play for. But then yes, it makes it harder for the really small countries to have half a chance, like your San Marinos and Andorras, because they kind of need to rely on the draws to go their way. But like when you look at Linfield, like for Northern Ireland, Latvia, Liechtenstein and Malta to have teams in the playoffs, you could even throw Luxembourg, even though we've seen Dudelange in Europe before. Yes, Sheriff, you could say Moldovan, because Moldova domestically aren't the best, and like when they play in like Euros or the World Cup qualifiers. Like Sheriff, obviously last season looked very impressive in the Champions League, surprising a lot of us, and obviously got into the Europa League. Obviously Shamrock Rovers have been in Europe before, same with Dundalk, so we've seen them in the Europa League, and Dundalk were very close a few years ago to qualifying, so there's definitely teams that have had experience now of being in like the group stage. It's just some of the nations themselves have just not, you don't see it very often where they're within touch and distance. But it's going to be fun to see how it kind of generally plays out with those European ties. Who gets in, who doesn't, and all that kind of good stuff. Then obviously with like domestic games in general, I obviously will be keeping all eyes on Hibs and Rangers. See if that one plays out. Obviously with Rangers playing in Europe, this is kind of an ideal time to get Rangers. Obviously Martin Boyle, it comes down to if he has his chance to start this week, because I feel we kind of need it. Get him running out at like against Rangers, run riot, and hopefully bag like even a draw. We'll take that. But obviously from there, like Lyon and Ligue is the Friday night game. Mönchengladbach's the Friday night game in the Bundesliga. Then from obviously there we fly over to Spain, and obviously 2 games in Spain this week for like Friday night games, which is quite rare. Like you don't usually get 2 Friday night games, you usually just get the one. But if you're a UK resident, for example, you get them both on Premier Sports, so fair play that you've got the 7 o'clock game and the 9 o'clock game you enjoy. Means it's a late night, but Espanyol, Vallecano could easily be a draw. Sevilla should beat Valladolid, but after how Sevilla played last week, I'm not counting my chickens just yet. Then in terms of the Saturday games, Tottenham Wolves is the early kickoff, Bournemouth Arsenal the late kickoff. I feel Tottenham should have enough to beat Wolves, and Arsenal should have more than enough to beat Bournemouth. If Arsenal show the form they've been showing so far, they could take Bournemouth to the cleaners just like Man City did. And then I think for like Super 6, if you're a fan of that, I think it's like you're looking at the 3 o'clock Premiership games, and then probably might be the like the late game, and then one of the Sunday games at 2 o'clock. Only 2 games in France on Saturday. Monaco, Lens, Marseille, Nantes. Bundesliga, quite a few games. Dortmund, Bremen's going to be an interesting one. See how Bremen hold up against one of the established names after bouncing back from relegation. All eyes on the late game at 5:30. Union Berlin, Leipzig. Italy, 4 games. All 2 at 5:30, 2 7:15. So if you're a BT subscriber, you've got them. Enjoy. For me, I'm going Lazio, Udinese, Inter, and Sassuolo to get all the results there. Eredivisie 3 games split out just perfectly if you watch the Eredivisie 3:30, 5:45, and then 8 o'clock. Should be Vitesse, Sittard and Utrecht to get the results there. Portugal, all eyes is on 8:30 game, which is on BT, so fair play. BT showing more Portuguese games this season. If I'm honest, could be a draw, like 2-2. But Sporting definitely going to be up for it. Pedro Concalves showing a lot of good form. The team itself is showing good ambition in the summer window. But we'll see how that one obviously plays out. Hibs and Hearts, obviously on Saturday, is the early kickoff, so that's a 12:30 game. If you're a Sky subscriber, you have that to look forward to. Mallorca's the 6:30 game in Spain against Betis, and I almost think Premier Sports is near enough showing every game in the league this season. They're not showing the 4:30 game, which is also showing Cadiz, but they are showing Mallorca and Celta Vigo's games against Real Madrid. Andorra, worth highlighting, they are obviously, I found this quite interesting. As much as they're in Andorra, they don't have any Andorran players in their squad. It's all Spanish. There's one Argentinian and one Dutch player. I was like, well, where's the Andorrans? That should be the point, but it's PK's involved with that team, but is what it is. But there's nothing else really major games wise. If obviously battle of the big owners, Newcastle and Man City, that's maybe what that derby is going to become. Battle of the owners, just because Newcastle are owned by Saudi trust funds and all that kind of stuff, and Man City obviously owned by Sheikh Mansour. Leeds and Chelsea 2 o'clock will be an interesting one, as will West Ham and Brighton, especially with West Ham being in Europe on Thursday night. Can Brighton take advantage of that? Lille PSG, a couple of years ago with the league title, that was a big game. Lille last season not really showing it, and who knows what kind of Lille we're going to get this season. Yes, it's top 2 at the moment going into that game, but at the moment I'm not sure what Lille to kind of expect this season. Could it be a team that challenges for a European spot, or is it going to be like a Marseille, how Marseille have been in recent years? They have one good season, then one not so great, and same with Lyon's the same. Both teams just kind of have a good, their good season is where they end up just maybe finishing 7th or 6th, and you're like, you guys should be finishing 2nd or 3rd, yet you aren't, or challenging for the title, but you aren't because Monaco or Rennes or Lille's finishing above you. But yeah, that's football for you. Napoli and Monza should be an interesting one. Atalanta, AC, both teams have their history. It's interesting to have that so early in the season as well. That could go either way, to be honest. It could be a 2-2, could be a 0-0. I doubt it with both teams having goal scorers. I think 2-2 could be very viable. But there's nothing Celtic Hearts obviously play Sunday, obviously because Hearts obviously have the European commitments on Thursday, and I feel Celtic may breeze past them, but at the same time it isn't a given solely because of how Hearts have started the season, that they may feel this is their acid test to say, can we challenge the top 2, and if so, can we? And it's going to be interesting to see if they do have the capabilities to make it happen. But for me, I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for Super 6, things like So Rare and football stuff as well. Just obviously for some people the game of the weekend is Manchester United Liverpool. Both teams have been abysmal this season. Liverpool 2 draws, Man United 2 losses. Both not starting their seasons whatsoever in the way they would have expected, especially since Liverpool had in their eyes 2 teams that they should have been beaten in Fulham and Crystal Palace respectively. Same for Manchester United, with it been Brighton and Brentford respectively, and it's just not happened. But see how that one plays out. Could be, some folk have joked, it could be a relegation 6-pointer this early in the season. You never know. Oh, if Liverpool were to win this, there'll be panic. Like I don't think Manchester United have ever been bottom of the Premier League ever. Whether it be under Fergie or any other manager, I don't think it's happened yet, and it would certainly start to ring alarm bells. But yeah, that will certainly be an interesting game come Monday night. And then obviously Roma Cremons. Cremons looked they dug deep. They I think a lot of folk, if you're a neutral and you like following like Italian football or even football in general, and you just like going around the leagues, Cremons could be your team to kind of keep an eye on this season. They dug deep against Fiorentina. They were very, very unlucky to lose 3-2. They were in a great position, but they fell short. And what was funny about the Italian League in general last week was 10 teams won, 10 teams lost, which doesn't always happen. Usually sometimes maybe get draws thrown in, but this week was all wins and losses, no draws. So certainly always makes for interesting viewing, and it sometimes can make a difference at the start of the season for some teams. If they're already like 3 points chasing, it can make it a bit trickier for some. And obviously Sampdoria Juventus, 7:45 game, if you're a BT viewer as well. And then 2 games in Spain for the late games, so Elche Almera and Girona Getafe, to keep your late night viewing, as it were, going strong. But like the thing is, like, and I'll say this as kind of like a discussion. If you follow Scottish football, for example, in the media, a lot of their talking points this last couple of weeks has been to do with TV rights. How like Scottish football sells itself short, and there was a great piece put out. It was basically like leagues of like Europe, and it was like TV rights, and we were like, and basically it was like, when you broke it down, it was just fascinating to see how some of these teams, like obviously, like Premier League was obviously the most expensive because it's got Sky Sports, BT Sports and Amazon Prime. Bundesliga is Sky Sports, while Liga obviously has Premier Sports for itself. Like Italy and Ligue 1 is like BT. MLS is like mainly like Premier Sports and Free Sports. They did have like Sky previously as well. Then obviously like with Scotland, we have obviously Sky Sports, BBC. We have we did have BT at one point as well, but it's just how our kind of like rights aren't great. EFL is between like Sky and ITV get involved as well. BT show like the lower leagues stuff, but mainly the non-league, like the National League, and they make a great package of that. They show at least the games on a Saturday. They show the highlights, so you like and it's good to actually keep up with it. And if I'm honest, like, and then obviously out with, like, say, like Portugal, which also goes to BT as well. Like the Canadian Premier League, BT show that. Like, if you didn't know that, that's like you see, it's a really BT show. Canadian Premier League. MLS has like 3 channels, if you want to put it that way. Well, it's 2 because it's Premier Sports owns 3 Sports, but they show that when they do, and obviously Sky Sports. But like when you used to look at some of the deals as well, Eredivisie used to be Sky. Ligue used to always just be Sky. Ligue now also have TV rights for ITV. But it's only 10 matches a season. Like, what's that? That's just crap. Champions League, if you're first for that, is all just BT. But when you kind of like break it down, like for what they're used to, like I used to enjoy Bundesliga and Second Bundesliga for BT because you had Second Bundesliga used to always get, maybe say, if there was a Friday night game as well as what was a, maybe say so you'd maybe the 7:45 game, the 7:30 game for Bundesliga, but you might have had like the 5:30 Second Bundesliga game before it. So you'd have Second Bundesliga, then maybe say a Saturday, a Sunday and a Monday, you'd have a mix of both divisions. You'd maybe have one game from Second Bundesliga. You'd maybe at most get, say, 4 games of the Second Bundesliga, but the Bundesliga you had like the whole division, which was great. So you were like, but Sky you don't get that. You literally don't even get that. You maybe get, say, 4 or 5 games. You maybe get like whatever's on a Friday, whatever's on a Saturday, and whatever's on a Sunday. You might get the Monday night game as well, but it's depending how it's structured. But obviously the German fans don't like a Monday night game, which we understand. They throw like the tennis balls and whatnot. It's great to see when they do that, because it's a protest against the league. But Italy, BT Sport and Ligue 1's fine because they pretty much show the entire league anyway, so you don't feel like you see most of the league anyway. Portuguese league, they show a decent amount of the league. It's mainly the biggest games, but they do try and show some of the smaller teams. And when that was on Free Sports as well, that used to always cut, or Premier Sports used to cover the game that was maybe not in BT or whatever. So you always were like, I've got that. You'd end up having 2 games from that league. And if you're someone that does like FIFA predictions, for example, if you've got like a 3 monitor setup, for example, or whatever, depending on what your setup is, or 2 or 3, you always knew, I can watch games live. Especially if, say, a player's playing well, that's what you always fell back on. You'd be like, this player in this game, let's watch it live, see what the actual goals were, how they're playing, and it just sometimes made it easier for if you're doing team of the week, team of the season predictions. But yeah, as it was, the Scottish stuff just sells itself completely short because obviously BT used to have it, but it went to Sky Sports. It's been a problem with Scottish football since the Setanta days, when it was like Sky, Setanta, like BBC do a little bit, but it's not really enough. If I'm brutally honest, I feel with like Scottish football, and I feel that's why they're doing like the review and they're trying to say, we're looking at like a 50 million a year package a season. Why not more? Like, why not say 100 million? Because you could say to yourself, well, why not market like, and that's why they should look away from the 12 team league, go to an 18 and market themselves to say, right, let's sell ourselves to like America, let's sell ourselves to like Australia, let's sell ourselves to mainland Europe. Try and market yourselves into a position to say, right, what would make us stand out in a position where it gives the top division a lot more money and it also the other 4 divisions a lot more money. Because if I'm honest, I'm surprised we don't see more of the Championship, more of League 1, more of League 2. Like the Championship, we do get BBC games when it's like Scottish Championship on a Friday night, and we sometimes might get other divisions as well. Like we'll get the playoff ties, for example, but it's something that needs to be looked at for a lot of leagues. I remember it was about a day, I think it was about 10-12 years ago, there was a big thing about Sky, because at the time they had the rights for near enough everything, like league-wise. They had the Premier League, they had the EFL, they showed La Liga, they showed the Champions League, they were showing they were basically showing like near enough every league, Eredivisie, they were showing everything, and people were like, oh, we can't have this, we can't have that. And that's how like BT took a chunk, and then BBC or ITV took chunks, and Premier Sports took a chunk, and everyone started taking chunks out, and that's now how Amazon. There was even a debate during like lockdown of could Amazon just say, right, we're going to take everything, we're going to offer, say, one flat out subscription service for every league in the world, and we're going to spend like £100 billion for, like, say, the next 20 seasons or 10 seasons, whatever it is. Make it such a fee and a length that it's like, it's a contract that it's like nobody else can really, like, and then that just monopolises everything. They would literally have everything. They would have all the football, they could do what they want, they could probably run adverts during games. You miss a goal, oh, we're going to go at an advert, or Ronaldo scores, or Messi scores, or Mbappe scores. You're like, oh, and then like they don't even show you the replay of it, and you're like, oh well, I see it's 2-0 now, oh, I'll have to go and check on the internet. And you try and check on the internet, you can't find it, because the only way you find it is someone that's videoed the goal in the stadium, because they've obviously not shown it live on Amazon, because they're the only network showing it, because they've bought the rights from everybody, like whether it be Sport TV in Portugal to Premier Sports here, or NBC or whatever. They're like literally buying the rights from everybody. But see what happens in terms of everything. It makes an interesting debate though, for like sport, how it potentially could progress, I suppose. But let me know your thoughts, folks, on like TV stuff with football, because it is expensive. Like, there's no denying it, because you need, like, if you're someone that wants to watch like the Premier League, EFL, then like say Bundesliga, La Liga, Eredivisie, Serie A, Ligue, and like basically say the big 5 leagues and any of the other leagues on top. You're literally needing BT, you need Sky, then you need Premier Sports. So you need like 3 subscriptions right off the bat. You might need Amazon to cover for the areas of like when games are shown on Amazon, but it's a difficult kind of like circumstances and that. But we'll see how it goes, folks. Let me know your thoughts on all that, folks. As I said, plenty covered as usual. See obviously how football plays out this week. So take it easy, thanks for listening, and I will catch you all later.